Hi, welcome to this TED Talk with Marla Lee. The topic today is going to be the art of negotiation and executive strategies. Marla Lee is a seasoned executive leader, educator, and mentor, currently serving as a program mentor in the School of Business at Western Governors University. With over 3 decades of experience in higher education, and leadership, she has become a respected voice in academic innovation, executive coaching, and organizational development. Marla's professional journey is defined by her commitment to ethical leadership and transformative change, especially within student-centric institutions and cross-functional teams. Marla holds an advanced degree in organizational leadership and is completing doctoral level work focused on capacity building and executive strategy. She has guided hundreds of adult learners and corporate leaders alike through the nuances of performance management, leadership theory, and strategic planning at WGU. She plays a pivotal role in coaching faculty teams through complex decisions involving mentorship, models, program expansion, and resource allocation. Her TED Talk, The Art of Negotiation, Executive Strategies, is both deeply personal and sharply practical. Drawing from lived experience as a university leader, Marla explores how negotiations are more than boardroom maneuvers, they are opportunities for connection, transformation, and shared success. Her storytelling combines leadership theory with actionable tactics, illustrating how negotiation can be approached not as a confrontation, but as collaboration. Whether navigating faculty dynamics or designing scalable mentoring frameworks, Marla has consistently demonstrated how thoughtful negotiation unlocks institutional growth and individual empowerment. Her talk reflects years of practice, missteps, reflection, and eventual success, all rooted in empathy, preparation, and strategy. Outside of her professional life, Marla is a passionate advocate for women in leadership, a devoted mentor to first-generation college students, and an enthusiastic reader of behavioral science and negotiation psychology. Prepare to be engaged, inspired, and equipped as Marla Lee redefines what it means to negotiate like an executive leader in today's complex professional landscape. Hello, thank you for having me today. I am super excited to be here. I always wanted to do a TED Talk. This would be my first one. The art of negotiation, executive strategies, is very important to me, as I was not always comfortable as a negotiator. There were times in my life where I wouldn't even ask for a discount, or I wouldn't ask for something different if that wasn't the side dish that came with it. I just took it as is, and I didn't want to cause any waves or cause any stress on anyone. But now things have changed. As I have worked my way through my career, I've become a professional negotiator. And I'm thrilled to say it is not about trickery or high pressure or conflict. It's about collaboration. And I love collaboration. About a year ago, I sat across from a colleague at Western Governors University. We were trying to resolve a mentoring model conflict. Two departments, one limited budget, and very different priorities. 10 minutes in, I realized something. We weren't negotiating. We were just talking at each other. Negotiation isn't just about boardrooms, contracts, or international treaties. It's about human connection, strategy, and leadership. It happens every day. As a matter of fact, some of you probably go through some pretty good negotiations before bedtime every night and before you get out the door in the morning, especially if you're dealing with children. We are excellent at negotiating with children, and they are excellent excellent negotiators, usually winning those negotiations each time. It happens every day in classrooms, team meetings, budget reviews, and yes, even in the faculty lounges. The problem is many executive leaders go into these situations without a plan. Today, I want to share 8 evidence-based strategies that will make your next negotiation not only more effective, but more ethical, more strategic, and what we're all searching for, more human. These strategies come from years of leadership theory, psychology, and yes, my own missteps and successes as a mentor and executive. Let's start with preparation. Now, I have to tell you, preparing for things is not my favorite thing. That's why I'm not great at painting. I don't like to do all the prep work. I just want to paint and get it done with. But it doesn't usually turn out too good when I do that. You've got to prep, and the same is true for negotiation. This is where 70% of your success is going to happen before you ever enter the room. Think about it like prepping for a marathon. You don't start running the day of the race. For example, when we launched a new academic mentoring initiative at WGU, I made the mistake of assuming that everyone already agreed on our goals. I prepared content, not context. The first meeting was a disaster. Half the stakeholders weren't even aware of the urgency. Since then, I've started every major negotiation with a simple framework. Who are the stakeholders? What's my BATNA? What are theirs? Preparation isn't just about knowing the facts. You have to also know your people. Now, let's talk relationship building. One of the most successful negotiations I've ever witnessed wasn't led by a charismatic executive or a flashy speaker. It was a quiet department head who had spent months building trust with her faculty. Months. She started every meeting with, "What matters to you right now?" That simple question opened the doors because people don't negotiate well with strangers. They negotiate with people they trust. Think about that for a minute. And you'll find that true probably in lots of your negotiations. When you didn't have trust, it was very difficult to negotiate with that person. Trust reduces defensiveness, increases cooperation, and makes people more likely to accept solutions they didn't initially want. Relationships aren't fluff, they're strategy. They're worth the time, they're worth the investment. Next, let's talk about framing and communication. Let me tell you a quick story. I once had to negotiate faculty load balancing during a shorting staffage. Whoops, staffing shortage. The proposal was deeply unpopular. So I didn't start by presenting the plan. I started with the challenge. What would it take for all of us to get through the next 8 weeks with our students' outcomes intact? That's framing instead of here's what I want. It becomes here's the shared problem. Negotiation is framed, how it is framed significantly impacts perceived fairness and outcome satisfaction. Remember back earlier in the conversation when I said it wasn't a negotiation, we were talking at each other. And this happens quite often. So if you don't have that framework, you don't have that connection with your audience, And it's going to be very hard to bring them in to feeling that they trust you, that it's fair, and that they have ownership and they have say in it. And that's what everybody wants in a negotiation. They don't just want to be told, they want to be a part of the solution, a part of, appreciating them, who they are, respecting them. You're equals in this negotiation. Communication is not about sounding smart. It's about listening well. A mentor of mine taught me, say less, ask more. Reflective listening, repeating and validating what the other party says builds alignment more effectively than persuasion. You let the person know, I heard you, I understand you, and I'm going to take that into that in our negotiation. It's not going to be disregarded. It's important to you. It's important to me. This builds alignment and it more effectively um, moves people in the same direction as if on the same team, solving the same problem. Better than just, what sometimes we would think of kind of as tricky persuasion techniques. We are not going to use those. So the next time you're stuck, pause and say, tell me more about that. It works every time. Problem solving. This is the tough part, or it's the tough part for some people. This is where decisions have to be made. And this is also where great negotiators shine. A few years back, we were debating resource allocation between tech and instructional design teams. It was getting heated until someone asked, what if we applied for a cross-functional grant together? Boom! Our conflict just turned into a collaboration, an interest-based negotiation, really identifying that underlying need, not just the stated want, but thinking, what do we really need? Why do we need it? Not just what we want. Okay. And concessions, the trade-off. In negotiations, it's a give and a take. So there's some kind of trade-off, usually. I once offered extended development timelines in exchange for cross-training my team. It cost me some speed, but I gained capacity and loyalty. Thoughtful concessions increase trust and preserve relationships. It is a stellar time, an excellent time as a negotiator to show that you really know, understand, and care about the people that you are negotiating with, collaborating with, that you came up with a concession that makes sense to this team, something that they might enjoy, something that's motivating, because you've been listening, not just talking you've been listening and really doing reflective listening. And everyone's going to pick up on that. And that's going to make the art of negotiation so much better for you and for whoever you're working with to come to a really great solution. It's not about giving up. You're not giving up something. It's about leveling up. And that means using our interest, using our knowledge, using our experiences, and everything that you have learned about your team to bring it up to a better, stronger place. So everyone's moving ahead. This is not like a win or lose. We want it to be a win-win. Sometimes it's not that way, but that's what we're hoping for most times. Everybody feels like they've won, and they have, and maybe in different ways. Closure. Closure matters more than you think. Many times this just gets dropped off, or it's in the same format as goodbye and I'll see you next time. If you've ever had a handshake deal fall apart, or if you've ever come to an agreement with somebody and that agreement was very important to you, so you remembered every detail, but when you went back to talk about it again, they didn't quite remember. You had one version, they had another version, and guess what happened then? Trust was lost. Nothing happened. It just fell apart. So the closure part is very, very important. So you want to come together with clarity. So don't rush off at the closure. You definitely want to everybody agree. This is what we decided. This is where we are. And if there's any gray areas, you want to work those out right then and there. And then you're going to document this. It's going to get documented. Documented in a way that everybody sees it right then. Maybe somebody even just takes a picture of it on wherever it's posted or wherever you're working, or maybe it's in a collaborative document. Wherever it is that everyone can see it and say, yes, this is it. We all agree this is what we worked on and this is where we are today. And then you want to get everybody to kind of sign off on it, to put it in writing, get them to sign, maybe plan the next get together. Lots of things that kind of bring it together and you're celebrating the win. So it's a positive thing, but it's also a positive with a transition piece that moves you to that next point of collaboration or expectations, or whatever's going to come next, and everybody's on the same page, excited about it. And so that's very important. That has to have a strong closure. And then you're going to evaluate. Every negotiation ends with a lesson, if you're paying attention. I ask 3 questions after every major negotiation. What did I learn about the issue? I'm certain that if we take it down to a basic level and you've ever shopped for a new appliance, you got there and realized you had a lot to learn about that appliance, that there's a million models, features, all kinds of things to consider. And you have to really get an education on what it is you want, what it is you're buying, what is available. It's no different when you're negotiating in a collaboration with your peers or another group of professionals. It's the same thing. What did you learn about the issue? Second question, what did you learn about the other person or the other team? This is very important to reflect on. Um, it's going to help you in further negotiations as you start to see trends, or you remember, that really worked well with them and they had the same concerns. So you really want to, I would suggest, keeping a record or keeping a journal somewhere, but you definitely want to remember it and use and keep building that toolbox for negotiations. You're going to see many repeating patterns and trends. And then finally, the third question, what did I learn about myself? And honestly, sometimes I learned good things about myself, and sometimes I learned, I don't negotiate that well in this situation, or I seem to get easily offended on this topic, or whatever it might be. You really want to look at yourself as well and think, what happened there? Why did I find myself, feeling panicked? Or why did I feel myself feeling like I was being confronted or that I had to defend myself? Why did I feel any other way than positive and ready to collaborate and work through this negotiation? It's very important. So those 3 questions. What did I learn about the issue? What did I learn about the people that I'm working with? And what did I learn about myself? This reflection really separates good negotiators from the great ones. And I know you all want to be great ones. Negotiation is a skill. We talked about earlier in the presentation, if you are going to run a marathon, you wouldn't start running the day of the marathon. It's the same thing with a musical instrument, anything that you're trying to learn. It takes practice. It takes skills. Negotiation is a skill. It takes practice, debriefing, and refining, constantly refining. The editing never ends, making it more tailored to your profession or the type of people you work with or the situations you work with. So let me leave you with this. Negotiation is not about being the loudest, smartest, or most persuasive voice in the room. It's about being the most prepared, being the most curious. Remember that statement? Tell me more about that. And the most empathetic. You've really got to be that reflective listener. When leaders negotiate well, they don't just get what they want. They build relationships. They solve problems. And they create systems that endure. It's not just a flash in the pan. When you are doing these negotiations, you are building and creating. And sometimes it's a foundation for something very, very important, or the scaffolding to get somewhere else. Let's stop seeing negotiation as confrontation. And let's start seeing it as collaboration. Because the very best leaders don't win negotiations, they transform them. Thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day. I really appreciate you attending this TED Talk.